Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. This is the weekly Tottenham news review with me, Lee The Dorset Spur. Have you missed me? Have you? No? It's been a while. To be fair, there has been an international break and I've been on my holiday. So, I've kind of kept a low profile on Chris's channel, but I'm back. I'm back now to talk to you about all the different things that have been going on at Spurs over the last sort of 7 days and give you my view on them and see what you think. See if you think the same as me or whether you think something absolutely, totally different. Am I on the right track, or do you think I'm totally deluded? Anyway, so it's been interesting, hasn't it? Without any actual football, unless you're into international football, which I'm personally not. But yeah, so first things first, the Lewis family have decided to announce that they're going to release £100 million to Tottenham Hotspur for player kind of purchases, for investment and so on. That's got to be good news, right? That's got to be good news. £100 million doesn't buy you one top-class player these days. Like, as in going out and paying £100 million for a player. But that's not how this works. I was listening to a really interesting podcast on the Lab, where a guy who deals, I can't think of what his name is now, but a guy who deals with football finances was breaking it down and explaining actually they annualise this investment and utilise it over the course of a certain period. So you can actually spend this money, but plan it out over say 5 years or whatever. So your 100 million will go a lot further, because actually if you put it over 5 years, you kind of spreading that payment out. So of course it goes for buying players, it goes for wages, it goes for that sort of investment. And essentially, players have like a book value. So every year of their contract, it kind of goes down from what you've paid for them, of how much they're now worth and so on. So if you sell a player for more than the book value of the player, a bit like a car, I guess, for more than the book value, that's a profit, right? And that helps you in PSR and all the rest of it. Really interesting podcast. But it's really interesting that at this moment, the Lewis family have decided to announce this £100 million investment. I guess you wouldn't really want to go around going, yeah, we're going to spend X amount, millions, and chucking 500 million, £1 billion or whatever, because essentially what that does is it tells every other club actually they've got a few quid to spend. So, we'll tap them up, we'll push them prices up. So I guess it's a bit, strange to announce how much you've got and all the rest of it. But this is the period where Tottenham Hotspur is moving into a more transparent kind of ethos, where they're kind of telling us stuff that we wouldn't have known before, and so on. The Lewis family have said Tottenham Hotspur is not for sale. We're not selling. And all of those people that were going around saying that they were going to buy the club have all kind of disappeared into the ether, and no one's seeing anything of them again. So actually it turns out that was just a load of old nonsense, and the Lewis family are saying put up or shut up, and so they've shut up. But what the Lewis family are saying is, we're committed to Tottenham, we're committed to investment, we're committed to improving our standing on the pitch. Now, you don't have to believe that, I guess. You don't have to believe it, because those guys have been there for a lot of years. It hasn't been Daniel Levy that stopped them spending the money, really, has it? You can't believe that Daniel Levy was kind of holding them back. What I think has happened is that Joe Lewis is getting older and older. His family are now asserting more control over what's going on. And actually, as fans, They've seen what happened in Bilbao. They've seen the explosion of support for the club, how big the fan base is. You look at the amount of people who were at that parade and everything, that the opportunities there are, unbelievable. So I think what they've come is to realisation that actually now we've got the infrastructure, now we've got that, what we need to do is build some momentum, because that will increase the value even further than the kind of £3 billion that's already there. So if you go around spending 400 million, 500 million in terms of the additional income that's going to generate, or value that's going to generate, actually it's, speculate to accumulate, I guess. So they've kind of said, this is what we're going to do, and now it's a time for, putting your money where your mouth is, and that's what essentially this 100 million is all about, isn't it? So for me, I'll take it all day long. Any investment that we get in is investment. It's more money, it's new money, it gives us something, even if that's improving contracts for players that we don't want to leave, tying them down and all the rest of it. So it's interesting to see how that's kind of panning out. On the subject of transparency, of course, we've had multiple interviews now with the new two director of football. So Johan Lange has now been promoted, and he is now a director of football, as well as the return of Don Fabio Paratici. The guy's kind of never really gone away. Although he's gone through his personal issues, he's never actually gone away, and he's been consulting for the club in the meantime. Now, there was lots of talk about the fact that with Don Paratici, he was unlikely to come back now that Daniel Levy's disappeared. I don't think that was ever really the case. I don't think Daniel Levy really had that say in it, and I think it must have been a joint decision about whether Paratici was employed or not employed. And I think they've seen the value of what he brings in terms of the player recruitment, his extensive network of agents and players and clubs and all the rest of it. He seems to know, pretty much everyone. And so you can't just chuck that down the pan. And of course, when you're looking at Johan Lange, okay, there has been some clear issues in terms of his ability to bring players in, but what he actually is bringing is obviously something that they really like. So he's now kind of picking up the academy, the academy performance, the medical department, and all that kind of under the roof stuff inside the training facilities, which is essentially the heart of the club, right? And Paratici is going to deal with player recruitment and loans and all that kind of stuff. So they've got a couple of distinct places in between them, but ultimately the decisions will need to be joint decisions. So when asked about this, Thomas Frank's view was, yeah, I'm all for it. These guys have got differing skills, and the role across football is so much bigger now than people realise, and therefore you need more than one person to control all of that. Now, previously you may have had director of football and then a load of layers of people underneath them and so on, and you probably still got that. But essentially what you've got is someone focusing on that part of it, and they come together to make the final decisions. It's a bit like any other business. I work for a big business, and we've got loads and loads of managers, all at the same sort of level, doing slightly different jobs. One person might be in charge of what goes out on the field. The other people are in charge of what goes out in terms of the metric numbers, and then they kind of bring them together, but decisions are made around that. And that's kind of how I see this. It's a similar sort of scenario where you've got layers of management, the senior management and so on. The days of Brian Clough sort of running everything, or Arsene Wenger running everything, or Alex Ferguson or whatever doing everything because they control everything, they're long gone. In terms of businesses, there's always several layers of different leadership, that needs to kind of control things. They've got, I think they said it themselves, 300 staff that need direction, that need clarity in what they do. And people need stuff, right? So people need, what's my objectives? What's my performance like? How am I doing? What do you want me to do for this? What's the direction you want me to take on that? And so there's always going to be those questions. So this two director of football thing sounds like a big deal, but it's not when you consider how football clubs are structured these days, as opposed to what we think as fans, like the manager has to make the decision about the players that he wants. Yeah, of course he does. And Thomas Frank has essentially said he makes the final decision. So they can recommend, they can say, look, this is who we got. Lange can come with the data, Paratici can come with the contacts. They bring them together and Thomas Frank says, yeah, I think that's a good fit for us. He's not a dickhead. Let's have him. And I think that's probably where it's all heading for. He said that he worked in a similar scenario at Brentford, so he's not fazed by it at all. So on top of the interview that Ben Haynes did with both Paratici and Lange, he also did an interview with Vinay Venkatesham, who kind of echoed pretty much the same things. Like when you're listening to what Vinay is talking about, he's saying pretty much the same stuff that Paratici and Lange are saying and so on. But this is all designed to provide more clarity for fans, more openness, more feelings of involvement and so on, which is something that we just haven't had. We haven't had that in the past. And I think it's a good thing. I know people will say, yeah, but it's all scripted and it has to be, put through from the club. And PR happens, right? PR is always going to be there. You're never going to get away from that. They're never going to tell you every internal secret, because why would they? Why would anybody in any business, to be honest with you? So, it makes sense. But any insight that you can get to give you a better understanding of what's going on has got to be a good thing, because it allows you to kind of think about these things. And talking of kind of insights, it was really interesting to see James Maddison's YouTube video as well, his second one. So the first one was really interesting. I think when he set it up, he clearly wasn't thinking that he was going to be talking a lot about his ACL injury. He was talking about a behind the scenes kind of thing. This is how the players get on. This is what they do and all the rest of it. And then all of a sudden he's had this really serious injury. And now it's going to be about his recovery, how he's recovering, what you go through and so on, which is, again, really, really interesting, in my view, to see these guys as people rather than just specifically players. They are people, they are young men. My eldest grandson is 16, Morgan, and you're looking at players like Archie Gray who are 18. Like, it's 2 years difference, and yet we look up to these guys, don't we? We look up to players like Bergvall and Gray and Pap Sarr and all that. They're just young men, really. They're kids to people like me. And I won't say the vast, but a big amount of football fans are people like me, kind of older generation, been going for a lot of years and so on and so forth. I know you've got youngsters coming through and all that, but a lot of people that go to football are still old school, older people. And these kids are essentially as young as your grandchildren and stuff. I mean, we idolise them, we sing their names, and then we slag them off when they're not playing very well and so on. But this gives us an opportunity to see the personal side of those guys. And I think that's important. I think it's a good thing. I watched the video. I watched it all the way through. There were some bits in it that I thought, I'm not keen on that. I won't go into it. But it was interesting to see the stress that he's under in his own mind, the fear and the worry about, is he going to play again? Will he get back in time for this season? Is that a target he could meet? And also, it was interesting to see Radu Dragushin, who's gone through the same thing, showing exactly the same scar, and how close he is to coming back and really chomping at the bit to get out there and get back playing. So yeah, it was an interesting thing, and it's another thing to let you see inside the workings of a football club, and you probably got more from it than the all or nothing videos from Amazon, which I was in, by the way. I was in it. Watch out for me. It was far more, kind of lets you into what's really going on behind the scenes there. So yeah, really interesting, and I'm grateful that Tottenham are allowing Maddison to do that, because I suspect contractually he's not allowed to show certain things, and it has to be checked before it goes out. But like I say, it's just interesting. It's content, isn't it? And we all want the content. That's why you're watching this video now, because you want my opinion of these stories. So yeah, it's content. Good content is good content, and I think it is good content to come across that. So anyway, obviously football back this weekend after the international break. I hate international break, but football is back after the international break now. Aston Villa at home. There is obviously a lot going on around Aston Villa at the moment in terms of the game in the Champions League. I'm not going to go into that. It's a political thing. I don't really want to talk about that on Chris's channel. But what I will say is, it's not an issue for Aston Villa. Aston Villa haven't done anything wrong in any of this, so it's not their fault, right? And I guess we need to kind of remember that with them coming to White Hart Lane at the weekend. But some good news: Kolo Muani is back training and available. Dom Solanke is close, getting better and better. The thing with Solanke, which is really annoying, is this has just dragged on and on and on and on, and we keep getting told it's close, and then it just never happens, and that's so frustrating. And again, this is why fans find it difficult, because we just don't know what's going on. We're going by what the manager says and so on, and obviously he can't always tell us everything, but and maybe he doesn't know, but then maybe they should be saying, we don't really know, we think it's going to be this, but it really depends on the player and X, Y, Z. At least you kind of can temper your expectation. But I can't wait to see Solanke back. Potentially he could be back this weekend, from what I'm kind of gathering. So I'll be really happy to see that. Kolo Muani as well, and Richarlison. 3 fit strikers would be a dream, wouldn't it? To be able to mix that up. I love the fact that we've got so many different options available in terms of how the players work, what formation they can do, what they can bring. If a player's not working, you've got someone else you could bring in. So if you're looking at Richarlison, it's not working, he's not having a desired effect, bosh, you can come off, have a break, son, don't worry, there's another game coming in a couple of days. Kolo Muani, Randall, come on, you give it a go. That's not working. Okay, we've always got the backup of Solanke now, or we've got the backup of Tell, and there's a lot of interchange, which is really good to see. And of course, we've still got Dragoshin to come back. We've still got Kota Takai to come back. We've still got Kulusevski to come back, which again strengthens that squad and gives you that flexibility in terms of how you play. So yeah, I think it's good news on the injury front. It's just been slow and painful, but I think now we're heading into the make or break time, aren't we? It's getting close, Christmas, which is make or break for most teams. It's where you either start to fly or start to really hit rock bottom. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of pans out. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the game at the weekend. I'm hoping that Spurs can come out with a win. Obviously, Aston Villa not had the greatest of starts this season, but that doesn't really mean anything. This is the Premier League, and anything can happen in the Premier League. We just don't know. I mean, who would have thought that Liverpool would have started losing games, when you look at how they dominated the season last season, and how they started so strong this season. So it'll be interesting to see where we go from here. Anyway, listen, I've rambled on 20 minutes. Probably more than enough you want to hear from me. All that's left to say is, number one, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. If you like the video, please do give it a thumbs up. Please share if you want to share it. If you don't subscribe to Chris's channel, again, why would you not subscribe to this great channel? You got lots of people inputting stuff in. There's lots of content on here to get your daily fix of Tottenham news. It will mean an awful lot to Chris. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe to this channel. So why would you not? Why would you not? So anyway, all that's left to say is, like I say, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. And as always, up the Spurs!